Hey, this is Brantley Whitley and Brandon Roberts from the insuranceproblog.com. That's Brandon waving at you right now. Today, we want to talk to you about a question that we're asked probably, I don't know, at least a couple times, a half dozen times a month or so, through email, through our voicemail, through comments on our blog. And that is whole life insurance worth it? So, a lot of people have heard a lot of things about whole life insurance from all sorts of sources that talk about using it as your own financial institution. Let's call it that. And a lot of other people have heard that whole life insurance is always a bad deal. So the question that we want to address today is whole life insurance worth it, Brandon? Brandon is drinking coffee while he should be talking.
And trying to plug predictable profits at the same time.
But it's backward. If you could read backwards.
Oh, it was backwards? Hold on. I came prepared for that because I know sometimes the camera reads it
Brandon, you're a life insurance agent. You're supposed to be able to write backwards.
Is it good now?
Oh, how'd you do that? That's magical.
I kind of knew I was going to make that joke. So I know that sometimes the camera shows it one direction versus the other. So I came prepared.
Right.
So insuranceproblog.com/predictable profits.
Yeah, he's plugging our book.
Someone's going to pay the bills.
That's right. Shameless plug that we totally.
Is whole life insurance worth it? Buy the book and find out. No, we'll let you know now.
Right.
So I think the big question that comes up framed in this context is there's a lot of information out there, and life insurance is a little obtuse because it comes with its own set of words. And as a result of all that, people start to get bogged down and they start to think, is this even worth doing? Is it even worth figuring it out? Because it seems complicated, and I think I'd rather just do something simpler. So maybe whole life insurance isn't worth it. And our sort of position on that is, oh, it's worth it, all right. And we have gone through the lengthy process of finding just what is so great about it. And not only that, but receiving validation from the people who took a chance on it, so to speak, or who decided it was worth it and have come to really, really love it. So in the beginning of a lot of insurance agents' careers, they talk really conceptually, right? They read the manual, they read the brochures, and they say, this sounds really great, so here it is. But they don't have a lot of historical validation. That's not you and I anymore.
Right.
We've been around the block a time or 10, and we now know from some pretty strong evidence that whole life insurance is extremely worth it.
Yes, absolutely. Well, from the 8 years that the insuranceproblog.com has been around, we've worked with, I don't know, these are statistics. I always try to quote statistics when we're doing videos and doing podcasts without doing research beforehand, because that's just the kind of people we are. We've worked with hundreds of clients, and we've probably talked to thousands of prospects. So we've looked at many thousands of insurance illustrations, proposals, financial plans, all of the above years. And I can say with 100% certainty that of the 8 years that you and I have worked together, and we both have been in the industry longer than just the last 8 years, but in the 8 years that you and I have worked together, and with the clients that we've worked with that have come to us through the insuranceproblog.com, there's not been one single instance of a person coming back to us years later and going, oh, this was a terrible idea.
No, and not only that, but there's been a number of people that are not clients of ours, people we've never sold anything to, who meet us and we talk about life insurance, specifically whole life insurance, and we run into stories of people who are just fantastically happy with their whole life insurance policy. And
don't get me wrong, most people run away when they find out you sell life insurance. But.
Well, yes, they do. But I think that the biggest regret that people who buy whole life insurance come to have is that they didn't get more of it.
Right.
And we have sat on boatloads of historical evidence. Um, we we published an article in the Insurance Pro blog 5 years ago or so that chronicled the success that somebody had with a blended whole life insurance policy bought in the early 90s. And the rate of return that this individual achieved on his policy was like 7.5% year over year.
Right. Right.
And we even also chronicled an individual who bought a non-blended whole life policy decades before that particular blended policy and shared his numbers in a comment to an article written that sort of paid a lot of backhanded compliments to whole life insurance. And his non-blended whole life policy issued by an insurance company that would not be on the top of our list for top whole life companies achieved a 6+% rate of return year over year.
Yeah. That policy was issued by a company that's much more famous for writing car insurance.
Yeah.
And homeowners insurance.
Yeah. They're a good neighbor. And
they have Jake.
Yeah, they do. They do have Jake. Jake will hook you up. And we've seen it with the policies that we have actually written. I mean, we've now got some pretty good years behind us for people who have purchased certain policies. And they've all done well.
Yeah.
They've all done well despite declining dividend interest rates, right? There's many people who bought whole life insurance from you and I who have achieved results that are a little bit less than they anticipated them being from the original purchase because of the reduction of dividend rates. That's been the overall trend of the industry, because that is the trend of the debt market, bond market, which is where the majority of life insurance investment income is derived. And despite that, the reduction isn't substantial. And the one thing that these people all look at and remark on is, even with that slight reduction, it's been incredibly reliable.
Yeah.
There's not been any sort of substantial reduction. There's never been a moment where they opened up their statement and got a really big surprise. It's really, really reliable. It's really, really consistent.
Right. Right. Well, one of the things that I wanted to bring up in particular is, and I've told you this story, so Brandon and I have known each other for 8 years, so there's nothing that I say that he hasn't heard at least 5 times, and likewise probably. But you were talking about, meeting people who will out in public, probably in social situations, and always tell the story about going to a summer barbecue. And I met this older guy who's probably now in his, if I had to guess, he's in his mid 70s at this point. So the time I met him, he was in his late 60s, early 70s. And he owned a couple of what I would call sort of mid-sized manufacturing operations. And he found out I was in the life insurance business, and he was interested, which is unique because most people, run away. Brandon and I always joke, telling someone you're in the life insurance business is usually a good way to end the conversation. So if you ever just meet someone that you'd like to end the conversation with, just tell them you sell life insurance. That's a free tip. Anyway, so this guy, we'll call him Tom. I'll protect his identity. But Tom proceeds to tell me about all the things that he's done with money over the years. He's bought property. He's bought commercial real estate. He's invested in self-storage properties. He's, I was trying to think of some of the other things. Timberland, trees that could be harvested, all sorts of various things with the money that he's taken off the table from the businesses that he owns. But he told me, he was like, I bought these whole life policies from this company years ago. The agent tried to get me to buy more at the time. And this was, I think he said, in his early 40s. So probably about the time he was actually starting to make some money. And the agent tried to get him to buy more, and he didn't. And he was like, of all the things I've done, really nothing has worked out as well as the whole life insurance has. He's like, not in terms of any, he wasn't talking about in the rate of return realm. I mean, we're not being completely unrealistic about the rate of return.
You heard it here first. Whole life insurance makes better returns than any other investment option you can choose.
That's right.
That word, right? I hope so.
Brandon Roberts said that, by the way.
Mhm.
So, yeah. So it wasn't that, but he was just talking about the stability of it. And a comment that he made, and I'm paraphrasing because this was a conversation a long time ago. So I'm probably putting a few words and changing things around. But he made a statement to the effect of, I never would have put that much money away in something that stable had I not had a premium that was due that had to be paid.
Right.
So I hate using the term forced savings because that's something that the life insurance industry has been using for years, and it sounds horrible. I mean, no one likes to be forced to do anything. But there are times that we can set up, you and I've talked about this before, there are times that you can set up little tricks or hacks to get yourself to do things you wouldn't otherwise do.
Well, on the subject of forced savings, because there have been people, me included, who have criticized the forced savings idea, which is touted by the life insurance industry as a unique benefit of whole life insurance specifically. And I would say that when I was new to the industry, and even really not so new, I would crap on the idea of the forced savings aspect because my view on it was, we're adults, we need to be responsible and save.
Sure.
But here's the thing. Automation is a wonderful thing.
Yes, it is.
And you don't always appreciate that when you're inexperienced.
Right.
And you start to gain an appreciation for that as you sort of grow up and learn that the world is a really big and complicated place. Right. And mom's not around to make sure that you actually took care of the stuff you were supposed to take care of.
Right.
So it's really nice to have things that you're sort of forced into doing, and you don't have the option necessarily to opt out of them.
Mm-hmm. I always use the example of mortgage payments. I mean, no one, when it's not optional, it's funny how you come up with the money on the first of every month, right?
It is. And so we can talk about the virtues of responsibility and good behavior and all of that stuff all we want, but the truth is everybody gets busy.
Right.
Everybody neglects to do certain things, and the bad part is, if there's really nothing that holds your feet to the fire,
right,
you just sort of fall off the bandwagon. Lots of times you don't get back on it. So if you have a savings plan, but something comes up and you suspend the savings plan, there's a wildly good chance you won't get back to it.
Right.
And that doesn't make you a bad person. That doesn't mean that you have no responsibility. It just means that you have other things going on.
Yes. It means you're normal.
I mean, I got a phone call the other day from the missus letting me know that the electric bill at another place that we have for some other thing that we don't need to talk about was past due, and they were going to turn the power off. They were calling to let her know that.
When you say it.
Yes. They called to let her know that we hadn't paid the electric bill, and they were calling to let us know that we were coming up against the date where they were going to shut the power off. So what I do, I went online and I paid the bill. Why didn't I pay it before? Because I've got a million other things going on and I forgot about it.
Yeah.
These things happen.
Yep.
So if something as meaningless as the power bill can get skipped, it's very easy also to forget other things that are going on in your life.
Yes.
And the only real difference between the only thing that makes the power bill absolutely get paid is the fact that we kind of need the lights and everything else to work there every day. So if that's going to get cut off, we're going to make sure that we bring that current. But if there are other things that are going on, and you kind of neglect to put the money away into the savings account, there's a good chance that you're going to find other things that you need to do because other stuff comes up.
Absolutely.
So as much as some bloggers out there, and I at one time wanted to poo-poo on the idea of forced savings, I'm here to tell you that time has gone on and I have gained a little bit more perspective on that, and I no longer wish to
Right.
malign that idea.
Well, it's worked. Has it not worked for you in your own life insurance?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
There's lots of money in there now.
Exactly. Let's go back. I want to. I know we need to wrap up the video, but there was something else. There was another point that I wanted to make about. We called the guy who had the whole life insurance policy, the traditional whole life insurance policy from the Good Neighbor Company.
Mm-hmm.
We call him Jim. We don't know what the guy's real name was, but we're just calling him Jim. Over time, he achieved something like, by your calculations, it was a little over 6% rate of return, right?
Yep.
So, and this was a policy that was not blended. Can you explain what the difference there, just real briefly? Because I think it's important for people to understand the results. I'm not saying they're going to be better with a blended policy, but let me rephrase that. I'm not saying they're going to be better than Jim's non-blended policy, because Jim bought his policy at a different time when dividend rates were different, interest rates were much higher, that sort of thing. But buying if you're going to buy a whole life insurance policy today, that's worth it. It's actually worth owning. Mm-hmm. Blending is going to be a crucial component of that equation. And so can you talk real briefly about policy blending and what in particular makes that what in particular about that is a feature that makes whole life insurance worth owning?
Blending significantly brings down some of the costs associated with whole life insurance and permits the policyholder to exercise some flexibility with a feature called the paid up additions rider that allows that individual to make the policy much more cash rich.
Okay.
It's sometimes what we refer to as overfunding whole life insurance in many respects.
That's just a very generic term.
Blending opens up the door to overfund a whole life policy like never before.
Right. It typically relies on the use of term insurance and the use of a paid up additions rider inside of a whole life insurance policy. Not separately, because a lot of people will get confused and well, I got to buy a term insurance policy. No, we're talking about it all combined into one place.
Caveat emptor, it's not the same at every single life insurance company. So you have to have some understanding of how to navigate those waters.
Right.
You can always reach out to a well-seasoned professional who understands that idea, who has written countless articles on that subject for 8 years. I don't know where exactly that would be, but
maybe over at theinsuranceproblog.com.
There you go.
And I should also mention that we recorded a podcast on this topic a year or more ago, I guess at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And there is the written blog post that you referred to. I'll put the link down in the description here in the YouTube video so that you can click over and read that if you want to.
Yeah.
There's more information about Jim's situation there and some other thoughts that we have surrounding that are sometimes going over specific numbers and numbers that are in charts is difficult in talking. So it's better to go over and take a look at those.
Right.
All right. Any other thoughts before we wrap up?
I think that's probably good for today.
All right. Well, I'm Brantley Whitley, and that other guy is Brandon Roberts. You can find us and more of what we say and write about over at theinsuranceproblog.com. Thanks for watching this. And
I don't remember which one was right, so I'm just going to hold both of them up.
And don't forget to head over to theinsuranceproblog.com/predictable profits, or you can come over to theinsuranceproblog.com. You can type it predictable profits or go to our products page. It's everywhere. You won't have trouble finding it. If you want to learn more about whole life insurance, and in particular, if you're an agent and you want to learn how to sell more whole life insurance, predictable profits can help you do that. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again real soon.